The $63 billion company that sold nothing. Enron scandal explained how Enron fooled Wall Street and destroyed thousands of lives. Enron's $63 billion collapse. The fraud that changed everything. December 2001. America's seventh largest company files for bankruptcy. $63 billion evaporated overnight. Thousands of employees financially destroyed. Wall Street completely shocked. But not because it happened, because absolutely no one could explain how the company actually made money in the first place. This is the story of Enron, the company that sold nothing real, made billions on paper, and then imploded spectacularly while everyone stood there clapping. And the terrifying part, the smartest guys in the room saw it coming and cashed out while you lost everything. Imagine a company that built its fortune by moving natural gas through underground pipes. Not the explosive, exciting kind of gas, the boring utility kind. That was Enron in 1980. Just your average Houston-based pipeline firm formed from a corporate merger that no one outside a tax attorney's office particularly cared about. But then came Ken Lay, pronounced like the potato chip. He had a PhD in economics, a perpetual deep tan, and one revolutionary big idea. If the government stopped telling energy companies what prices they could charge, Enron could transform from a boring utility company into a dynamic energy trader. Suddenly, natural gas wasn't just pumped from point A to point B. It was bought, sold, hedged, and aggressively speculated on like it was Wall Street. But significantly, Lay brought in Jeff Skilling, a fast-talking McKinsey consultant who believed deeply in free markets, complex spreadsheets, and most importantly, himself. Skilling's pitch was revolutionary. Enron wasn't just a pipeline business anymore, it was fundamentally a technology company. "We don't sell energy," he confidently said. "We sell the future of energy itself." And Wall Street absolutely loved this narrative. The real game changer came with Enron Online, a revolutionary digital marketplace for trading energy contracts. It made natural gas trading look as simple as ordering pizza online. Click a button, instantly move millions of dollars. Suddenly, Enron wasn't just some Texas gas firm with hard hats and pipes. It was Silicon Valley innovation with a cowboy hat. Business reporters swooned. Fortune magazine crowned Enron the most innovative company in America for 6 consecutive years straight. You couldn't open a business magazine without seeing Ken Lay's smiling face. Inside Enron headquarters, the atmosphere was intensely competitive. Skilling constantly told employees they were the smartest guys in the room. Translation: if you weren't performing at peak levels, you were immediately gone. Bonuses were enormous. Backstabbing was casual office culture. And every single quarter was a high-stakes battle to impress investors and analysts. You personally closed 5 major deals, cut operational costs by $20 million, boosted quarterly revenue by double digits, and landed a contract that guarantees profit margins through 2009. Yes, sir. All ahead of schedule. Impressive. If we were running a normal company, that is, Enron aggressively called itself a market maker, a technology innovator, an intellectual brain trust. From the outside looking in, it genuinely looked like the future of American business. But ask one simple question. Wait, what do they actually do day to day? And you'd get a confused shrug, a whiteboard covered in circles and arrows, and 40 minutes of incomprehensible buzzwords. But the stock price kept rising steadily, so absolutely no one asked that question again. And while the media spotlight shone brighter and brighter on Enron's success, behind the scenes something was quietly, dangerously cracking apart. By the late 1990s, Enron was a Wall Street legend. The stock skyrocketed from $7 in 1997 to over $90 by 2000. That's over a 1,000% gain in just 3 years. If you bought Enron stock instead of spending money on groceries, you looked like an absolute genius. The financial media called it a business miracle. Company executives called it a never-ending party. But behind all the champagne and corporate slide decks, the math fundamentally wasn't mathing. See, Enron had made enormous promises to investors. Constant growth, big quarterly numbers, absolutely no bad earnings reports ever. But energy markets aren't TikTok. They don't go viral every single week. So they creatively changed the accounting rules. Enter mark-to-market accounting, also known as we're counting chickens that haven't even hatched yet and may not even actually be chickens. Here's exactly how it worked. Enron signs a 10-year energy supply contract with a customer. Instead of waiting for actual cash to gradually roll in over a decade, they counted all 10 years of projected profit immediately in the current quarter. Wait, can you legally do that? We are doing it right now. So on paper, it looked like Enron was a perpetual cash-generating machine, but many of those deals were barely profitable. Some hadn't even started operations yet. Others were based on financial projections that made astrology look scientifically conservative by comparison. Internally, it was complete chaos, but as long as the public image held strong, absolutely no one dared blink or question anything. And when the numbers still didn't add up convincingly, enter Andy Fastow, Enron's chief financial officer and creative accounting wizard. His main job was, well, let's politely call it, financial storytelling. He created dozens of outside legal entities called special purpose entities, or SPEs. These were technically separate companies from Enron, but in actual practice, totally controlled by Enron executives. Here's the elaborate scam. Enron would take its absolute worst assets, deals that were actively failing, investments that were losing value rapidly, and sell them to these SPEs at inflated prices. On paper, it looked like Enron was offloading risk and bringing in fresh cash. In reality, Enron was secretly funding both sides of every deal. It was like selling your broken car to your dog, giving him your credit card to pay for it, and then proudly telling your wife, "Look, honey, I made a profitable sale today." Fastow had fun creatively naming these entities with acronyms like ILGEM1, LJM2, and Raptor, because nothing says totally legitimate business companies like randomly generated names that sound like military code. I'm not breaking the rules here. I'm just using them extremely creatively. While Fastow juggled liabilities like flaming swords at a circus, Enron's top executives were quietly cashing out their stock positions. Millions in bonuses, lucrative stock options, luxury villas, private jets. Meanwhile, regular Enron employees were being told to pour their retirement savings into Enron stock. Their 401k retirement plan was basically hail Enron or get fired. Every major Wall Street analyst still gave Enron glowing buy ratings and positive reviews. Many of those analysts worked at firms doing massive business with Enron. Merrill Lynch, for instance, made millions managing Enron's stock offerings, while publicly praising its financials on television. Objectivity was completely optional. Revenue was absolutely not. The truth was buried under dozens of layers of technical jargon and incomprehensible spreadsheets designed by people who treated business ethics like a software plugin, optional, confusing, and incredibly easy to ignore. And the company actively encouraged that confusion. Enron's unofficial internal motto might as well have been, "If you can't explain what we do, you're probably doing it exactly right." By 2000, Enron's public image was seemingly bulletproof, until someone finally asks the uncomfortable question. Wait, where's the actual money coming from? August 2001, Enron Tower headquarters. Jeff Skilling, CEO of supposedly the hottest company in America, walks calmly into his office, places his resignation letter on the desk, and just leaves. Who's like that? No major scandal yet, no press conference. Who's to cuss will peace out everyone. I'm done being brilliant here. Wait, what just happened? No worries at all. He just wants to spend more time with his millions. I mean, his family. Reality check, red flag the size of Texas. That exact same month, the SEC launched an official investigation into Enron's mysterious off-balance sheet entities, which in corporate legal speak means we smell smoke but haven't found the bodies yet. So, Ken Lay, the original financial alchemist and Enron's founder, returns as CEO and smiles like your confused grandpa after accidentally deleting your homework and says, "Hi everyone, it's just another regular Monday. Business as usual here." But inside the company, some people weren't buying this performance. One of them was Sharon Watkins, a vice president who had started noticing numbers that didn't make any sense. She sent a detailed memo to Ken Lay with a blunt warning. "I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals." An internal investigation followed, but instead of sounding emergency alarms, Ken Lay treated it like a public relations issue. His takeaway: we just need better messaging, not we're actively committing massive fraud. Eventually, the cracks were no longer private. A few persistent journalists and financial analysts began sniffing around aggressively. They started asking uncomfortable questions like, why is Enron's business model so unnecessarily confusing? Who actually owns these mysterious off-balance sheet entities? Why does their financial statement look like someone beat it repeatedly with a shovel? And Enron answered with a fancy PowerPoint presentation, 3 meaningless buzzwords, and essentially a middle finger. We are a revolutionary energy arbitrage trans-optimization platform. We strategically leverage arbitrage between the notional volatility of mark-to-market derivatives within the structured energy swap framework. So you have no idea either what that means. Not a single clue. October 2001, the mask finally slips publicly. Enron publicly admits it made significant accounting errors. That's corporate speak for we cooked the books so hard they literally caught fire. Turns out $586 million in reported earnings weren't actually real. That's not a typo or rounding error. That's stage 4, fraud cancer. Investors finally wake up from their trance. Sell everything immediately. Sell the stock. Sell the couch. Sell the dog, if necessary. The stock collapsed catastrophically from nearly $90 per share in August to under $1 by the end of November. In just 4 months, Enron lost 99% of its market value. Total chaos erupted inside Enron headquarters. Phones ringing off the hook constantly. Executives locked in emergency meetings. Employees stared at stock tickers like their lives were flashing before their eyes. Then came December 2nd, 2001. Enron officially filed for bankruptcy. It wasn't just a business failure. It was a financial catastrophe. $63 billion in assets. Completely gone. At the time, it was the largest corporate collapse in U.S. history. Thousands of employees, many with their entire retirement tied up in Enron stock, lost absolutely everything. I saved diligently for 20 years, put every bonus into the company retirement plan. I gave them everything I had. I believed in them completely. Now, I have nothing. Meanwhile, the executives who caused this disaster. I am not a crook, Kenley insisted. Sure, but he did cash out $70 million in stock before stepping down. Fastow pocketed $30 million running the fraudulent scams he personally built. Kenley sold millions in stock while telling employees to hold theirs. The workers got pink slips and empty retirement accounts. The executives got beach houses and offshore accounts. But wait, wasn't someone supposed to be independently checking these numbers? You know, like the professional auditors. Enter Arthur Andersen, once one of the prestigious Big 5 accounting firms before becoming the Big 4. Arthur Andersen was supposed to be the financial watchdog, the objective referee, the one sober, responsible person at the party. Instead, they turned out to be the one spiking the punch at the party. Arthur Andersen wasn't just auditing Enron's books. They were profiting massively from Enron, raking in millions from lucrative consulting fees to... That's right! The people hired to objectively review Enron's financial books were also simultaneously advising Enron on how to creatively cheat them. Conflict of interest, absolutely massive. But it was the early 2000s. Nobody blinked at obvious corruption. And when whistleblowers came forward and federal investigators started circling, Andersen didn't carefully review the books for errors. They systematically destroyed them. Thousands of crucial documents. FedEx boxes full of financial records. Internal memos and backup computer tapes were fed into industrial shredders in an absolute frenzy. Why is this shredder slower than our HR department? Maybe we should just stop shredding immediately. Stop questioning and keep shredding. We've got 12 years of fraud to erase in one lunch break to do it. Should I try to fix the shredder? Oh, thank God, an intern. Start eating documents. We're going to need all hands and mouths. The firm claimed it was just part of their standard document retention policy, but federal prosecutors didn't buy that excuse. Arthur Andersen was convicted of obstruction of justice. Their license to audit public companies was permanently revoked. And just like that, 85,000 people lost their jobs. A prestigious firm that had existed for nearly a century collapsed overnight. Poof, gone. Not for committing the original fraud, but for helping hide the evidence trail. And Arthur Andersen wasn't alone in the corruption. J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Merrill Lynch. They all helped fund Enron's off-books deals, structured the lies, took their fees, and cashed their bonuses. None of them faced any criminal charges whatsoever, but they did get slapped with hefty civil fines. At least the executives didn't get off completely easy. Skilling and Lay were criminally charged in 2004. Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. Ken Lay died of a heart attack before he could serve a single day. Fastow pleaded guilty and got 6 years. Congress scrambled to pass new laws quickly. Sarbanes-Oxley, also known as the Please Don't Lie Act. CEOs had to personally sign off on the numbers. Auditors had to pretend to be honest. Too little, too late for Enron's victims. But here's the real twist. This wasn't just a story about Enron specifically. It was a story about belief, about mass illusion, about what happens when the world wants to believe in something so desperately badly that everyone stops asking basic questions. For 16 years, Enron sold the future, and everyone bought in enthusiastically. But when the lights finally came on, the building was completely hollow. The numbers were fake, and the smartest guys in the room had vanished with all the money. As someone once wisely said, a lie can travel halfway around the world, while the truth is still putting on its shoes. Enron sold nothing real, made billions, and destroyed thousands of lives. Hit subscribe for more stories about the biggest scams in history. Comment below. How did everyone miss this fraud? Could it happen again today? Thanks for watching.